Welcome to In Depth for a look at what is making mining headlines in the Americas. As commodity prices soared over the past 2 years and government debts ballooned as a result of the last recession, it was perhaps inevitable that resource nationalism would increase too. Ivanhoe Mines and Rio Tinto had a close call with the massive Oyu Tolgoi mine in Mongolia, with the government there stepping back from its wish to get a bigger piece of the pie. Mining Week's deputy editor, Matthew Hill, joins me from Toronto, Canada to talk about this issue. Now, Matthew, what is the history with the Oyu Tolgoi investment agreement? And why did the government want to change it?
Yes, it took more than 6 years for Ivanhoe Mines to negotiate this investment agreement with the Mongolian government. They finally reached an agreement in 2009, ratified it in 2010, and then and it was signed into Mongolia's constitution. And then in September, we started hearing noises out of Mongolian local media that the government was looking to hike its ownership of the giant Oyu Tolgoi project, which is a $6 billion mine and one of the biggest copper gold mines under development anywhere in the world right now. They wanted to increase their stake in that project from the 34% under their agreement to 50%. But obviously Ivanhoe Mines wasn't having any of that. Neither was their 49% shareholder Rio Tinto. To put it in context, there's a Mongolian election coming up in June next year, and so there's quite a bit of politicking going on behind the scenes, and a group of 20 parliamentarians have been petitioning the government to up their exposure to the Oyu Tolgoi project. Obviously, Rio Tinto and Ivanhoe weren't keen at all to do this. They've already invested billions of dollars into the project, and which is now past the 50% construction mark.
Obviously, Rio Tinto and Ivanhoe were not in any hurry to return to the negotiating table. What was their response?
Yeah, when you've gotten an investment agreement in place that took 6 years to thrash out, and Ivanhoe Mines gave up quite a significant chunk of their exploration property rights in Mongolia as part of the agreement, and then also gave the government 34% stake in Oyu Tolgoi, which is not insignificant. It's understandable that both companies would have been upset that the government was now trying to backtrack and change things after they had already poured billions of dollars of investment into the operation, and at such a late stage in the game. Initially, both companies put out respective media messages pointing out that the investment agreement was part of Mongolian law and they couldn't change it. But then ultimately, it seemed as though sense prevailed that the three partners in Oyu Tolgoi, the government, Rio Tinto, and Ivanhoe, sat down together and basically put out a statement saying that the government had invited the companies to renegotiate the investment agreement. They wanted to hike the royalties for the mine. They also wanted to lift their stake to 50% in Oyu Tolgoi, which they can do, but only by 2039. There's a 30-year waiting period, unless, of course, the partners both agree to do so, which obviously Ivanhoe, at this stage of the game anyway, isn't going to do. So basically the statement that they put out said that they sat down, spoke about it, and the status quo remains.
Do you know if there are any other companies facing similar issues in Mongolia?
The government's busy trying to negotiate another investment agreement for another massive mining project in the country, the Tavan Tolgoi coal mine. Now that involves a consortium of Japanese, Russian, and then companies, and then also one of the world's biggest coal miners, Peabody Energy from the US. They're the biggest coal producer and supply to power stations in the US. they also gunning for a stake in this project, and that's currently underway at the moment. They don't have the investment agreement in place yet, so perhaps given the backdrop of the pre-elections politicking, this might not bode well for the companies that are trying to thrash out the investment agreement with the government for Tavantolgoy. But then on the other hand, the government understands that they don't want to hurt investor sentiment in their country as much as they've got to please their own populace. They also want to ultimately list this giant coal project, and investors obviously will be watching very closely what happens with the investment agreement.
What are the risks of Mongolia coming back a couple of years down the line and demanding a bigger stake?
Well, it's no secret that mine nationalization is the big number one threat facing companies at the moment. I suppose it's a result of soaring commodity prices over the past couple of years, at a time when budget deficits have been ballooning as a sort of follow-on result from the 2008-2009 recession. So governments have been looking for revenue streams that they can supplement their finances with, and I suppose as Ernst & Young said in a recent poll of the mining industry, the mining sector mining companies are seen to be soft targets, whereas a bank, if government makes demands of a bank that they're not happy with, the bank can not easily, but they can effectively say, all right, fine, then we're packing up, moving to Singapore, moving to China, or wherever the case may be. With a mining company, if you've got this giant mining deposit underneath your soil, you have a lot more leverage to dictate the terms as to how that's going to be exploited, because you can't move that deposit. Obviously, there are deposits all around the world, but there's not all that many of them left, and the big juicy ones that are left are being found in increasingly hairy environments. So this really is posing a threat to mining companies, and I suppose governments certainly realize that they hold a lot of the bargaining chips. Now, as for the specific case with Ivanhoe Mines and the Mongolian government, I suppose it is certainly a real threat that the government can come back and sort of demand higher taxes or a bigger stake in the Oyu Tolgoi project. Obviously, there are avenues that Ivanhoe can use to protect its shareholders' interests, but it just makes the situation difficult, particularly when you've got the upcoming elections. I'm not professing to be an expert on Mongolian politics, but you never know when regimes change or political dynamics in the country change. Certainly investment agreements and particularly royalty and tax regimes are often subject to change along with those.
Thank you, Matthew, for your time. That's the show for today. Join us again next week for more news and insight on mining in the Americas. I am Martin Joaquino for Crema Media in Johannesburg.